Deep within the frozen Arctic tundra, a spark of ancient instinct ignites. As gray clouds roll across the desolate landscape, thousands of fragile lives gather on sharp ridges. They feel it in the biting wind, the timeless call to depart, mapped out by the Earth's invisible grid. One brave wing shatters the silence, and an entire armada follows, lifting a heavy cloud of feathers against the sun. Even the blinding neon labyrinths of human cities and choking industrial smog cannot break their focus. They pierce through the toxic haze, chasing a destiny written in their blood. Under the pale crescent moon, lightning fractures the sky. They plunge into a violent storm, but even the isolated struggle in the wind cannot shatter their unbroken formation. As a blood-red dawn stains the wild sea, the true ordeal begins. Guided by an unseen magnetic compass, they rouse their collective intuition, leaving the safety of the shores behind to enter the vast, unpredictable void of the open ocean. The miraculous journey of wings has just begun. Tracing a vast oceanic highway from the frozen Arctic along the Atlantic coast to South America, the Red Knot begins its legendary stopover. At Delaware Bay, the mudflats gleam under the sun as millions of horseshoe crabs emerge from the tide to spawn, carpeting the sands with emerald green eggs. It is a critical buffet for the exhausted travelers. Dropping onto the shore in a chaotic symphony of calls, the Red Knots forage frantically. Their bills strike with rapid precision, gorging on the nutrient-rich eggs until their breasts visibly swell. Inside their bodies, a physiological marvel takes place. Their digestive organs shrink to save weight, while their fat layers double in size to fuel the next leg of the journey. As dusk falls, they rest shoulder to shoulder, gaining precious strength. By morning, amidst the roaring surf, the flock stirs once more. Taking flight just above the crashing waves, their plumage glows a brilliant brick red in the sunlight. A sweeping gaze follows them along the rugged, untouched coastline, watching them rise effortlessly over treacherous cliffs and vanish into the tropical clouds, bound for the very edge of South America. Embarking on one of the most perilous non-stop odysseys on Earth, a lone beacon marks a trajectory from Alaska, cutting straight across the heart of the vast Pacific Ocean. This is the Pacific golden plover, adorned in a striking coat of gold and black speckled plumage. Standing on the freezing Alaskan tundra, it catches the icy Arctic winds before launching into a solitary, daring flight, completely unassisted by a massive flock. Ahead lies nothing but the boundless, terrifying blue of the open sea. As a cold drizzle sets in, water droplets lash against its eyes, yet its gaze remains unflinchingly fixed forward. In slow motion, its wings beat with mechanical precision, a relentless, rhythmic engine of survival. Night falls, and the solitary traveler glides past moonlit clouds, while 10-meter waves churn violently below, ready to swallow any creature that gives in to exhaustion. Within its tiny brain, a biological supercomputer calculates flight angles using the ancient alignment of the stars. By the third continuous day, fatigue shadows its eyes, yet its flight muscles compress with undiminished strength. Finally, a tiny coral atoll emerges faintly on the horizon. Looking out from the tropical shores of Hawaii, the plover sweeps down toward the earth, its feet touching the fine sand as it folds its wings and breathes heavily. After an astonishing 5,000-kilometer non-stop journey, it takes its very first sip of fresh water. Racing an astonishing migratory path from the wilderness of Siberia, across China and India, all the way to Africa. A true warrior of the skies prepares for a grand crossing. This is the Amur falcon, a fierce raptor engineered with razor-sharp vision and a hooked bill built for survival. In Nagaland, India, thousands of these falcons congregate, lining power lines as their sharp, piercing cries echo across the valleys. Suddenly, millions of green dragonflies take flight from the rice fields, forming a massive, shifting cloud of insects. Seizing the moment, the Amur falcon dives from the heavens, clutching a dragonfly in its sharp talons. In extreme slow motion, the raptor feeds on the wing, effortlessly bringing its foot to its beak mid-flight. But the feast is brief, for the flock must now turn toward the desolate expanse of the Indian Ocean. A wide-angle perspective captures the immense solitude of these predators as they face the Great Sea. When fierce headwinds strike, the falcons drop their altitude, skimming just above the waves to break the gale. Under a scorching sun that burns the water's surface, they endure blistering heat and severe dehydration. Seen from the deck of a passing fishing boat, they streak by like feathered arrows. Finally, the arid coast of Somalia appears, marked by barren baobab trees. Touching down on the dry branches, the falcons shake the sea salt from their plumage and gaze out over the sun-drenched savanna, completing an epic maritime crossing. Tracing an unbelievable migratory map, a tiny Voyager charts a path from the white snows of Alaska across the vast Atlantic Ocean to the scorched deserts of Africa. This is the northern wheat-ear, a frail songbird with a soft orange breast weighing no more than a single stick of lipstick, a mere 25 grams. Standing on an ice moss ridge in Greenland, it lets out a brief melodic chirp before launching itself directly into the gray, ominous void of the Atlantic. Fierce gales strike, tossing the small bird aside, but it instantly recovers its balance. In a striking visual contrast, its delicate wings defy the giant white-capped waves churning below. As pitch-black darkness envelops the sea, the wheat-ear flies completely blind through the night. The heavy, frantic thumping of its tiny heart echoes through the silence. Dawn breaks, reflecting sunlight across the endless water, yet the bird keeps beating its wings, finding no island or branch to rest upon for thousands of miles. It skims near the deck of a massive cargo ship, but chooses to push forward on its own strength. With feathers growing weary and wings slowing from pure exhaustion, the golden dunes of Mauritania finally appear. The wheat-ear touches down on a small desert thorn bush, its tiny legs trembling. Tucking its head beneath its wing, it embraces the sweet safety of land after days of a life-or-death struggle. Here, in the windswept Sahara Desert, the Arctic native finds its new home, foraging for ants and small insects in the sand to recover. From the frozen ice caps to the burning sands, its dark, glossy eye reflects the brilliant desert sun. The northern wheat ear lets out a triumphant song, concluding a magnificent chapter of pure courage. Mapping a strategic inland migratory route from Eastern Europe, and a majestic voyager squeezes through the narrow bottleneck of the Strait of Gibraltar to enter Africa. This is the short-toed snake eagle, soaring triumphantly over the towering peaks of the Alps on its massive, regal wings. Locking its sharp gaze onto the terrain below, it scans the earth, searching for invisible columns of hot air rising from the sun-baked rocks. Through thermal imaging, these unseen pockets of heat appear as warm currents lifting into the sky. Steering directly into a thermal, the eagle stops flapping entirely, effortlessly spiraling higher and higher into the heavens. In slow motion, the specialized feathers at its wingtips automatically adjust to catch the wind, mimicking the advanced aerodynamics of a modern aircraft. It glides at incredible speeds with its majestic body completely motionless, as serene and relaxed as if it were asleep. Approaching the Strait of Gibraltar, the King of the Skies pauses, staring intently at the vast open water ahead. Science reveals that the cold ocean surface generates no thermal updrafts. Attempting to cross it blindly means flapping continuously and risking death from pure exhaustion. Choosing a wiser path, the eagle follows the narrowest strip of land, where the distance between the two continents is shortest. Here, hundreds of other raptors, hawks, kites, and vultures converge at the strait, creating a breathtaking aerial spectacle. Utilizing one final thermal from the Spanish mountains, the short-toed eagle launches itself across the channel. A sweeping drone shot tracks alongside the eagle as it effortlessly crosses the blue waters of the Mediterranean in a matter of minutes. As the coast of Morocco appears, the welcoming warm currents of Africa greet the monarch of the skies. Without expending a single drop of energy, it immediately spirals upward once more, effortlessly sailing over the snow-capped peaks of the Atlas Mountains. Casting a proud, commanding gaze down upon the wild new landscape, it spots a small snake moving across a rocky ledge and strikes like lightning. Standing on a high precipice, it unfurls its magnificent wings against the sun-drenched African horizon, a true master of physics and the natural currents of the world. Mapping an extraordinary continuous loop across the world, a giant three-dimensional figure-8 flight path unfurls, stretching across the entire expanse of the vast Pacific Ocean. This is the realm of the sooty shearwater. At their remote, densely vegetated breeding grounds in New Zealand, millions of these sleek, charcoal-gray mariners carpet the rugged coastal cliffs. As the roaring surf crashes against the rocks, the flock launches simultaneously into the sea. They glide mere inches above the water's surface, using ground effect to harness atmospheric pressure right above the waves, effortlessly carving through the air. Suddenly, under the surface, a shearwater folds its wings and transforms. Using its webbed feet to dive deep into the ocean depths, swimming as swiftly as a penguin to pursue schools of small fish. Surfacing with a fresh catch, it shakes its feathers and instantly takes flight to resume the journey north, directly into the warm waters of the equator. As the weather shifts, a colossal tropical storm materializes on the radar. Instead of fleeing, the shearwaters dive straight into the raging tempest, utilizing the ferocious winds to propel themselves forward. In slow motion, they bank sharply at 90 degrees, slicing through heavy walls of drenching rain. They sweep past Japan, heading directly toward the nutrient-rich ice-strewn waters of Alaska and the Kamchatka Peninsula to feast on salmon and crustaceans. Recharged, they begin the southern half of their monumental figure-8 loop. A high-angle perspective captures an endless dark ribbon of birds stretching across the sea. As dusk falls over the coast of California, they glide across a brilliant golden sunset, their bodies seemingly fused with the ocean after countless days of sleepless flight. Their waterproof plumage effortlessly sheds the ocean spray, throwing off crystal droplets with every beat of their wings. The odometer climbs at a staggering pace, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 kilometers. Finally, after 6 months at sea, the lush green islands of New Zealand re-emerge. The shearwaters touch down with absolute precision at their exact old nesting sites. Clapping their bills together in a tender reunion, two mates celebrate a journey that spanned halfway around the planet, a magnificent global loop completed by an unparalleled gift of natural navigation. Mapping an incredible inland trajectory from the wild, subalpine coniferous forests of Siberia to the dense equatorial jungles of Central Africa, a miniature marvel prepares for an epic flight. This is the European pied flycatcher, a tiny songbird distinguished by the striking, high-contrast black and white patterns of its plumage. Perched on a pine branch, it tilts its head to listen for the faint hum of insects before darting out to snatch a mosquito with pinpoint accuracy. But as the seasons shift, the first flurries of winter snow begin to dust its once warm home. Weighing a mere 15 grams, the small bird launches into the sky, its fragile body shivering against the biting autumn chill as it glides over mist-shrouded European valleys. As the nocturnal journey begins, the tiny flyer pushes forward completely alone through the silent, velvety darkness. Zooming into its eye, advanced biological imaging reveals special proteins called cryptochromes that allow the bird to literally perceive the Earth's magnetic field, navigating a highway of invisible color bands. It soon confronts its first major obstacle: the rugged, towering peaks of the Pyrenees. Weaving through deep, treacherous mountain passes, it narrowly evades dangerous, swirling vortexes. Then, the ultimate survival test emerges: the vast, suffocating sand sea of the scorching Sahara Desert. With blinding dust storms obscuring the horizon and not a single drop of fresh water below, the tiny traveler climbs to an altitude of 3,000 meters, seeking cooler air and favorable tailwinds. In stunning slow motion, its miniature wings beat relentlessly against the stark blue desert sky. Hiding from the blistering heat by day, it presses on by night beneath a brilliant canopy of African stars. After 3 grueling days and nights over the barren sands, the lush, vibrant canopy of the Congo rainforest finally appears. Swooping down onto a cool, dense branch, the flycatcher lets out a joyful, triumphant chirp, quickly finding a plump caterpillar on a green leaf to replenish its spent energy, a resilient little survivor safe inside its pristine tropical haven. Behind the awe-inspiring spectacle of avian migration lies a mind-boggling physiological transformation. To prepare for these grueling journeys, birds enter a state of hyperphagia, gorging on berries and insects for up to 18 hours a day. Within days, their bodies swell dramatically, accumulating a thick yellow layer of fat beneath their skin around the breast and abdomen. Science reveals that fat yields twice as much energy per gram as protein or carbohydrates, making it the ultimate aviation fuel. To offset this massive weight gain, an incredible internal reorganization takes place. The digestive organs, the stomach and small intestines, shutting down and shrinking in size to shed dead weight. Conversely, the pectoral flight muscles expand, packed with dense, enduring muscle fibers. Simultaneously, a marvelous biochemical shift occurs in the blood. Red blood cell counts skyrocket to maximize oxygen delivery to the straining muscles. Launching into the air, the bird may initially appear heavy, but it rapidly locks into a steady, efficient rhythm. As it traverses barren deserts, the metabolic burning of this stored fat undergoes a unique chemical reaction, producing endogenous water to hydrate the bird from within. But how do they survive days without sleep? The answer is an evolutionary masterpiece called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. As the bird flies, one eye closes while the other remains wide open. Inside its brain, one hemisphere rests in deep slumber, while the other maintains perfect control over the steadily beating wings. After several hours, the states reverse, allowing the alternate hemisphere to rest. Through this brilliant rotation, migration continues without the fatal risk of sleep deprivation. By the end of a grueling maritime crossing, the cost of this extreme journey is clear. The bird arrives visibly emaciated, its golden fat reservoirs completely depleted, leaving behind a strictly streamlined, minimalist frame. The moment its feet touch the ground, the frantic eating cycle immediately begins anew, fueling the next leg of the race. It is a flawless synchronization of mechanics, chemistry, and primal survival instinct. The power of millions of years of evolution compressed into a tiny, invincible beating heart. Deep in the remote and desolate reaches of the Southern Ocean, a monumental trajectory unfolds, mapping out giant three-dimensional circles that encircle the entire frozen continent of Antarctica. This is the perilous domain of the Roaring Forties, a chaotic world where roaring, tempestuous gales whip the sea into waves as tall as multi-story buildings. Out from the dense, blinding salt spray, a majestic silhouette emerges, a breathtaking 3.5-meter wingspan cutting proudly through the storm. This is the Wandering Albatross. Locking its calm, fearless gaze onto the raging tempest, it faces the brutal environment with an unyielding spirit. Remarkably, its massive wings remain completely motionless. It does not flap, gliding effortlessly like a high-performance sailplane. To achieve this impossible feat, the albatross utilizes an extraordinary technique known as dynamic soaring, harvesting energy from the stark difference in wind speeds between the wave troughs and the open air above. Diving down into the sheltered valley between two towering waves, it builds immense velocity in the calm zone. Then, banking sharply, it shoots upward, catching the fierce winds at the wave crests to gain incredible propulsive lift. This repetitive, rhythmic S-shaped flight pattern continues indefinitely, allowing the bird to travel thousands of miles without expending a single watt of muscle power. Supporting this mechanical perfection is a specialized shoulder joint equipped with a unique bone-locking mechanism, keeping its giant wings fixed in place without causing the slightest muscle fatigue. Skimming mere millimeters above the crests of breaking waves, its bill casually grazes the white foam as it scans the dark waters, effortlessly snatching a school of squid rising to the surface at night. Except for the brief intensity of the breeding season, this ocean nomad can spend years at sea without ever touching land, enduring sub-zero blizzards and soaring alongside icebreakers for days on end. To survive on salt water, a highly specialized desalination system continuously excretes concentrated brine from its nasal passages, dripping safely back into the ocean. Even when night falls, the journey does not stop. The albatross drifts effortlessly on the wind, plunging its brain into brief periods of sleep mid-flight. By the end of a single year, its total distance traveled reaches a staggering, unthinkable 120,000 kilometers. Throughout its remarkable 60-year lifespan, this solitary traveler will circumnavigate the globe multiple times. Silhouetted as a lone, majestic shadow against a colossal crimson sun sinking below the horizon, the haunting whistle of the wind through its primary feathers echoes a profound sense of isolation and grandeur. Finally, the stark, volcanic islands of the Southern Ocean pierce through the foam. Touching down onto the rugged earth, its first steps are clumsy and awkward, a comical contrast for a creature born to rule the skies. It quickly seeks out its lifelong mate, and together they perform a mesmerizing, rhythmic courtship dance. Spreading their magnificent wings and raising their bills to the heavens, their triumphant cries pierce the roar of the crashing surf. Here, on a wind-swept cliff looking out into the infinite blue, sits their solitary nest, the absolute symbol of freedom and the ultimate conquest of space. With a powerful leap, the albatross throws itself back into the abyss, its massive shadow fading once more into the gray polar clouds. A shocking, completely unbroken line unfurls across the global map, tracking a relentless trajectory that leaves the wild, muddy wetlands of Alaska and cuts straight through the vast, open space of the Pacific Ocean without a single layover, heading directly toward New Zealand. This is the stage for the bar-tailed Godwit, an extraordinary shorebird defined by its slender, stilt-like legs and a long, elegantly upcurved bill. Congregating by the thousands on the rich Alaskan tidal flats, the flock feeds frantically on marine worms and small crustaceans. Before departure, their bodies transform, storing maximum fat reserves until they become as round and plump as feathered balls. Suddenly, a resonant signal echoes through the mudflats. The entire flock launches into the sky simultaneously, locked in a tight, flawlessly disciplined formation. They rapidly climb to an optimal cruising altitude, where supportive trade winds catch them from behind, propelling them forward at incredible speeds. Day 1. 1,000 kilometers pass in perfect rhythm. The Godwits do not pause to eat, sleep, or take a single sip of water. Locking their wide, determined eyes onto the empty horizon, they push forward with absolute focus. Day 3. 4,000 kilometers. The flock glides over vast, glassy waters completely devoid of islands. Science reveals a terrifying truth. The bar-tailed Godwit cannot swim and cannot rest upon the water. For them, to touch the sea means to drown. They are locked into a brutal life-or-death marathon. Fly continuously or perish. Day 6, 7,000 kilometers. Pushed to the absolute limit, their bodies begin to consume their own internal organs to generate survival energy, shrinking non-essential tissues and burning muscle fibers just to keep their wings beating. Their rhythm slows, but their persistence remains deeply resilient. Day 9, 10,000 kilometers. A sudden, violent storm blocks their path. Forced to navigate around the swirling tempest, they expend precious, dwindling energy reserves. Several weakened individuals begin to lag behind, their shadows fading into the dark, unforgiving ocean depths. Yet, the remaining flock presses on, utilizing collective spirit and aerodynamic synergy to slice through the gale. Day 11, 11,680 kilometers. The lush, green shores of the Firth of Thames in New Zealand finally appear in the distance. Lowering their altitude as sweeping music rises, the Godwits touch down on the warm mudflats, their long legs buckling from sheer exhaustion. Collapsing their breasts into the soft mud, they tilt their heads to the side, breathing heavily. They have lost half of their body weight since leaving Alaska. Resting their weight on their long bills stuck deep into the mire, they gather the strength to take their very first sips of fresh water. An official Guinness World Record materializes on screen, the longest non-stop migratory flight on the planet. Standing across the sunlit New Zealand flats, thousands of Godwits celebrate an absolute victory of primal survival will over the standard laws of physics. Gazing back out at the deadly ocean they so proudly conquered, they begin to forage peacefully as a calm sunset blankets the bay, closing an epic chapter of tears, sacrifice, and ultimate glory. A staggering planetary trajectory reveals itself on the three-dimensional globe, tracing a giant zigzag path that links the absolute ends of the Earth, from the crown of the Arctic all the way down to the frozen floor of Antarctica. This is the ultimate realm of the Arctic Tern, a creature of pure, pristine elegance wrapped in snow-white plumage, crowned with a jet-black cap and anchored by a vivid crimson bill. Under the unending brilliance of the midnight sun, this graceful aviator skims the freezing polar waters to snatch small fish. But as the brief Arctic summer fades and the first hints of autumn shadow the ice, an ancient clock strikes. Gathering by the thousands, the terns launch into the sky, weaving a magnificent, shimmering ribbon of white against the clouds. They do not fly in a straight line. Instead, they chart a colossal S-shaped highway across the Atlantic Ocean, masterfully trapping global wind systems to propel themselves forward. Sailing past ancient, wind-swept European lighthouses in the dead of night, they press south. As they cross into the balmy waters of the equator, a tern banks elegantly to snatch a flying fish right off the undulating surface. To survive this grueling odyssey, they have mastered the art of sleeping on the wing, effortlessly gliding on ocean drafts to rest their flight muscles alternately. The odometer climbs at a breathtaking pace, 20,000, 40,000, 60,000 kilometers. Sweeping past the treacherous Cape of Good Hope, they dive headfirst into the freezing underbelly of the planet. Out from the dense, blinding white mist, the colossal icebergs of Antarctica gradually emerge. A weary tern touches down upon a glowing ice floe, bathed in the brilliant light of the southern polar summer. It is a profound ecological miracle. The Arctic tern is the only creature on Earth to experience 2 summers in a single year, witnessing more daylight than any other living being. Foraging alongside massive emperor penguins, they overwinter in this frozen paradise for several months, recharging their spent bodies on a boundless, nutrient-rich bounty of Antarctic krill. Yet, as the southern summer wanes, a powerful pull from their native north echoes in their blood, calling them back. Turning north, they face the monumental return journey of tens of thousands of kilometers. An ultra-wide perspective captures the stark, beautiful isolation of this tiny white speck defying a vast, tempestuous ocean. In stunning slow motion, its wings beat with an elegant but unstoppable rhythm, a delicate frame harboring an indomitable will to survive. They battle through the stifling heat of the equatorial doldrums, where dead air tests their ultimate endurance. Led by an old, veteran tern whose body carries the invisible scars of countless polar crossings, they push onward. Science reveals a staggering summary of this tiny creature's life. Over a 30-year lifespan, the total distance an Arctic tern travels is equivalent to 3 round trips between the Earth and the Moon, nearly 2.4 million kilometers. Finally, the vibrant, sunlit moss carpets of the Arctic breeding grounds re-emerge. The tern touches down with flawless precision on the exact island of its birth. As a grand orchestral finale swells with deep reverence, we look back at the 10 extraordinary masters of the sky. We have witnessed their wings striking powerfully against the shifting canvas of oceans, deserts, mountains, and marshes. Yet a silent and profound contrast threatens their ancient highways. Today, a solitary flyer must pierce through billowing plumes of toxic black smoke from industrial factories. They must navigate past giant wind turbines spinning on mountain ridges, dangerous new artificial obstacles that rewrite the rules of migration. In the heart of human cities, towering glass skyscrapers reflect the open sky, turning into deadly illusions for these weary travelers. But where there is peril, there is hope. Across the globe, dedicated conservationists gently place identification bands on tiny legs, releasing these resilient voyagers back into the open sky with human blessings. The journey of these wings is far more than a mere collection of distance records or cold, lifeless statistics. It is an endless, breathtaking epic of pure survival will, an indomitable spirit that effortlessly shatters the physical limitations of the flesh. A massive flock sweeps across a colossal crimson sun sinking below the horizon, while a single bird glides parallel to a mirror-like lake. The water ripples gently, reflecting a flawless biological masterpiece sculpted by millions of years of evolution. Whenever you look up at the vast sky and catch a glimpse of a solitary wing passing overhead, remember that you are witnessing one of the greatest wonders on Earth. These migrations form an invisible, living web that connects continents and ecosystems across our planet. The flock gradually fades into tiny black specks, vanishing behind the radiant golden clouds of sunset. Their cries drift away, yielding to the peaceful rustle of the wind through the trees as the screen gently fades to black. Which bird's journey amazed you the most? Leave your comment. Like and subscribe so you don't miss our next nature documentaries.